I'm Lucinda Green, and I have a major mission in our sport of eventing, and that is to keep cross-country as the heartbeat. I guess I've been in it long enough to have watched it through very many different faces, really, and most of my good fortune happened during the time when cross-country really was the heartbeat of the sport. And you had to do a reasonably good dressage, and you did need to have a clear round cross-country, but you could get a very good position by going, I think Mark Todd went from 37th to 1st in a year at Badminton when it was very, very wet. So you could do a lot to claw back what you maybe had lost in the dressage. Having said that, we always used to say at Badminton, you've really got to be in the first 5 or 6 to have a chance, and that's still the same. Why do we want to keep cross-country as the heartbeat of the sport? We're up against a really difficult situation in the world in which we live. There's a huge lobby, or a lobby that has a loud voice. I don't know that it's any bigger than it ever was, but the loud voice comes from social media about being unfair to animals, what gives you the right to ride a horse, and all sorts of worrying things coming in like this, which we are needing to listen to because we need to know where our problems are going to come from. But what I fear we've allowed it to ring too loudly in our ears. And so the point of our sport is cross-country, backed up by ever-improving dressage and ever-improving show jumping. It's a triathlon. But the heartbeat, as I continuously say, must be the cross-country. It's what riders get out of bed for. It's what separates it from the pure sports of dressage and the pure sports of show jumping. And having been lucky enough to commentate in Tokyo, my goodness, it was quite mind-blowing to see these sports of independent dressage and independent show jumping at their best. And I mean mind-blowing. Most especially, like, I don't think I'll ever forget the show jumping individual jump off. I have never seen horses go so fast at 1.50 meters. Fantastic. So that is a sport in itself. Tremendously exciting, tremendously successful around the world. Dressage, likewise, in a slightly different vein because it doesn't have quite the same adrenaline rush as watching show jumping. So we must have our identity as 3-day eventing, and that is the cross country. That's what separates us. Otherwise, we're second-rate dressage, second-rate show jumping, and an exhibition cross country. And I first felt that when I watched Tryon in 2016, which was the World Games down in North Carolina, America. And it was a very, very steep hill in it, so it had to be very careful about not getting horses too tired. And once it got to the top of the steep hill, there was really nothing to test them from that moment till the finish. And I just looked at it and shook my head and thought, well, a very, very difficult site to design. But what I'm seeing is an exhibition cross-country, and that is not what our sport is about. So we have a lot of work to do, and we have to take the understanding, the attitude that cross-country is the key, and not apologise for it. We don't want to hurt horses. We don't want to hurt people. We never have done. But we have a very, very exciting sport which is based around something really important, which is trust. The trust of an animal in his rider, the trust of an animal in himself. And we don't really ever make enough of that. I think people that don't understand much about the sport just think that the rider points the horse at the fence, gives it a wallop and it goes. There is so much more to it than that, as those of us that are involved know. And it's that we need to bring out and to advertise and show the tremendous care that these horses have. I mean, they are 5-star, not even 5-star, 6-star. The care they get, because we cherish them so much. We know how difficult it is to train a horse to the level, the highest level in eventing, and therefore all the way through we're going to be thinking we've got to keep this horse sound when he's 13, 14, 15, because that's when he'll be brilliant. So he's now 6 or 7. We must be careful how we train him because we want him for another 6, 7, 8 years when he gets to his best. And that, as a sideline, is why I am a little bit against some of the 4- and 5-year-old classes, because I think sometimes they ask a little bit too much of a horse's physique and mentality. But there are horses for courses, and some are ready for it and some take it on really well and it benefits them. But all the time, my big picture is thinking, how can I keep this horse who I think has some talent? how can I keep him in good mind and body for the next 10, 15 years? And how am I going to help him learn to believe in me and to believe in himself? And those two things, those two qualities, will take me a long way. For sure, you do have some horses that are braver than others. And I do think we've hit a little bit of a problem because cross-country has become less significant, dressage and show jumping have become more significant, and the breeding has changed. And we're going more and more towards dressage breeding, very pretty, and show jumping breeding, very careful jumping, all of which is understandably important because both those phases carry a lot of weight. But what I think may be suffering are two things. One, the ultimate courage. Two, the speed of thought. And there are plenty of show jumpers and I'm sure dressage horses that think very quickly and are very brave, but there's also plenty that don't. And it's to that end that I feel we've got to a little bit reconsider our breeding. But to do that, we have to reconsider how we're going to present eventing. And that's what I'm really interested to hear, what people's opinions are. To a degree, it might be in the scoring. That's already changed a lot, and the dressage scores are so close together now that a second across country now really matters, or even a point of a second. Is that the right way round? Do we have a situation where we've actually made dressage and to a degree show jumping too difficult, and it hasn't become similarly difficult across country because it's only so hard that you can go across country? We've also got this other interesting problem that dressage you can always get better and better and better. Cross country you get inside the time 0 faults and you can't get any better. And show jumping the same. You get it clear inside the time and you can't get any better. Dressage you can always get better, always get better, always get better. And I feel that is something that we have to really look at. And I always think that if you're going to criticize something, you should have something in its place. You shouldn't just wipe things out. And I'm rather guilty at the moment of saying I don't know what to put in its place. But I think somewhere along the line we've allowed this all-important balance to go out of kilter. And I'll just take you back to quite a long time ago when I started. It is quite a long time ago. The ratio of importance of each individual phase was dressage, I hope I'm getting this right, dressage 3, cross country 12, show jumping 1 or 2. But I mean a huge difference between the importance of dressage show jumping as compared to cross country. And when I started, the show jumping poles were pretty jolly heavy, and if you did have one down and it took a bit of bashing it, you got 10 penalties. And the whole thing has become far more like real show jumping now, much lighter, much more complicated courses, much more interesting related distances. Horses need to be so much more careful, the fences fall down much quicker. So you've got a different sport has emerged there, and dressage, we know that if you don't get a good dressage mark, except when the weather conditions are really bad, you aren't going to get there. You're going to have to be content with being in the top 10, 15 or 20. So I think we've got to really look at the balance, and I think it's an ever continuing subject. But at the back of our minds, we've got to remember what our sport is about, and we must not apologise for it. Yes, horses get hurt. Yes, riders get hurt. And that happens just hacking. You don't even have to be on a horse to have your head kicked in. Horses are dangerous. And the partnership that you can develop with a horse is the most fascinating and wonderful thing, and something that we need to show. And cross country is one of the ways of showing it. It does not look like an automaton. So I really hope that ideas will come flowing in from chats like these, because we need to think of it. If we don't, I fear that we will lose our sport, because social media is so strong and there is a small group of people that don't see why we shouldn't be allowed to ride a horse even, and their voice will become very loud, and we need to not ignore it, hear it, but to go forwards with our sport as it is. It's the type of sport that Red Bull should be sponsoring, because it is a risk sport and we should not be apologising for that. So I look forward to anybody that has anything interesting that they'd like to put forward, and all of it will go into the mix, and we'll try and find a way through. Thank you.